Hello, my fellow janitors. I'm King Link, and this is my last look and review of Viscera Cleanup Detail. As always, if you enjoy this review, please consider subscribing. I am working my way up to 200 subscribers, and I appreciate your help with that. And also, you can always ring the bell to get notifications of my content. With that out of the way, I'll confess, I don't really like cleaning up the house. I bet most of us don't. I just abhor it, though. But for some reason, I was curious how Viscera Cleanup Detail worked. I mean, it is a game about cleaning up other people's messes. It's a novel concept, and I wanted to see the execution here. Admittedly, I wasn't expecting a massive game, and there's a lot more in this game than I expected. But a simple game about cleaning up messes left by players who had already been played through the level was what I thought I was going to get, and that is close to what we get. The first thing I noticed as I play this game is the graphics in the game can look pretty good. Now I'm going into a random level here. It's called Pavement Tunnels, and I'll look around a bit before I get to work. The levels are incredibly well detailed, and the damage done in them is both impressive and unsettling, especially this one, which has aliens as well as humans in it. Now the problem is those graphics are a major gameplay feature as well as just eye candy. Seeing the mess and the destruction is what will help you clean it up, and there are problems. As you wipe away the mess, the blood and guts get lighter and lighter, and it's possible to leave an unclean area or an unclean mark of the game because it blends so well into the lightest level. In addition, trying to find all the guts and burn marks can sometimes be frustrating as they tend to blend in well too. And of course, finally, the bullet holes in the game, I don't even know if there are any in this because I couldn't see them, are admittedly hard to see at times. Overall though, the graphics work at first, and then the game adds some user-generated splashes and stains as you're moving around, dropping objects, and over-cleaning, and you'll see that they don't look as good or unique. It's not a huge problem, mind you, but it's still a consideration. On the other hand, the story, it's actually stronger than I expected, though admittedly not really necessary. I figured in this game I would be cleaning up messes left by other video game characters after they had their big action scene, and for the most part, that is what you get here. However, the player is told what happened at a location, and most levels have a number of notes informing the user of a little bit of more information about the event. Now, this is mostly done as pieces of a large puzzle. The idea is that the player can earn bonus points by filling out an incident report that usually has the player identify what happened, who it happened to, and even talking about each employee who was killed and how they were killed. That is a great idea, but in practice the experience isn't that strong, especially because you usually fill out that paperwork long after you've seen everything in the game. The notes and the information are there, but usually you've burnt them by that point, but the paperwork becomes tedious. And while it's not required to reach 100%, it is helpful. Now, it is an interesting idea for a mechanic, but when it feels like 90% of the questions on the paperwork don't really matter, it does fall flat on the face, though a forensic investigation of these scenes could be very cool for another game. Really, this game was always going to come down to gameplay, of course. How does cleaning up a mess translate into a game to play? Well, to start with, I'm going to say read the written review. I know, but I go into far more detail there, as well as talk about every tool and item in the game, and really focus on the game there. But since we're in a video and I'll go quickly, I'll give you the quick once-over. Now, Viscera Cleanup Detail has an almost zen-like quality at first. You're doing a repetitive task over and over, and slowly cleaning a room. You'll throw out all the dead bodies and the trash you can find, you'll mop up all the blood and such, and then you'll remove the bullet holes with a laser gun. And if you do all three of those things, you're usually done by that point, maybe having to do a small task like filling up medkits. That all sounds easy, and you know what? It kind of is, but by the end of the game, you'll find the challenge of the actual game, and it's a doozy. You see, cleaning up most of the mess isn't enough for this game. Even cleaning up all the mess you can find might not be enough. You're tasked to clean at least 95% of the mess. And, of course, they want you to do 100% if you can do it. Honestly, that's a very high bar, especially when cleaning up. If there's 200 objects, that means you can't have more than 10 objects misplaced at the end of the level. If you do, the game says you're demoted and kicks you out. That is a pretty high bar, only made harder when the game doesn't show you your progress in level. It only tells you at the end of the game how you did. Quite often, I actually would end a level just to see my current progress, then reload a save to go back to the level. That game flow isn't a good sign of the gameplay, and being unable to see how you're doing until finishing a level does become frustrating. In addition, for the most part, the game doesn't tell you what's wrong. There are posts and news clippings in the office at the end of the game, and they'll give you small hints, but they don't give you the full story. They might tell you darkness is taking over everything. It means there's a stain somewhere in the level, and that kind of sucks. While you play the game though, there is no sign of the progress it made in-game by either percentage or even highlighting what needs to be done. There is a sniffer in the game to find messes and trash, and that allows you to see where either trash or blood might be found depending on which setting you have it on. You can see me use both of them in this game, but you often have to search for it once it says there's something near, and honestly, a single piece of trash or a small blood stain is not even a blip on the radar even when you're standing directly on it. For instance, also, the first level I played, Athena's Wrath, it's the one I play in the first look, has a time estimate of about 90 minutes. You know, actually, after 90 minutes, I felt pretty good about myself and I thought I finished the level. I exited and I earned an 80% and a demotion. Why? Well, turns out I had much more to do. Like I said, you have to hit 95. I didn't even know about the laser gun or taking care of the bullet holes at that point because there's no tutorial. I didn't clean up a few pieces of blood, and I found a small sub area that needed a lot of TLC. It took me another 30 minutes and a lot of aggregation to go from that 80% to the 95% when I was done. The real issue I have with the game is that getting to 80 to 90% isn't bad. Actually, if you set it at 80%, I would have enjoyed this game a lot more. There's a zen-like quality to the game and it makes the game feel very relaxing and fun. The problem is, after that point, you really need a push to finish the game and get up to 95%, so the game will give you the congratulations you've completed the level instead of giving you a soft fail or even the full you're fired. And the game becomes very vexing at that point. Now, like I've said, I've written more about a number of things, but let's go over a couple more. Picking up bullet casings, or in this level it's actually shotgun shells, is absolutely annoying. And here I'm doing them one at a time, and when there's a pile of 10 of them, you have to do it very manually. The mopping itself gets dirty way too quickly. Normally it's really bad, but in this it seemed even worse because it seemed after 2 moppings my water would get messy. And in addition, the laser gun itself, which repairs bullet holes, feels heavily flawed, in that it's hard to see when you fill in an area, and often I scorched and created new holes when I couldn't see well. Now, the biggest complaint I've had throughout the entire game, though, is the office at the end of the level tended to crash on me often when I tried to collect items and my personal belongings. That's the box that you might see me walk by. But it seems like I was pushing the system over the limit, from what I'm saying. I wasn't. I did try to get 12 Employee of the Month plaques. I did store maybe a few items, but the game should support that. But when I got to 5 plaques, for instance, winning the game 5 times, save scumming of course, the game would actually crash on me, and it did it multiple times, each time wiping my office file. What's crazy is, that's the only place in the game that crashed on me, and that really sucked. Now, there are a few achievements for actually storing a bunch of stuff in the office, different pieces, and I ultimately had to give up on all of them because the game wasn't stable enough for me to chase them. Overall though, Viscera Cleanup Detail is an extremely interesting concept, but the gameplay falls quite a bit behind what it could be, and it makes a Zen-like game very annoying. If you only go for the 75 to 80% completion, I think you'll like this game a lot. If you want to get the achievements like I do, or even just beat levels, if they put 80 to beat levels and 95 for an achievement, I get it, but if you want to beat the levels, you have to go for the higher ranking, and you'll find those Zen moments become, admittedly, quite frustrating. If only they made the game a bit more forgiving, or giving a better way to find out how far you still have to go or what's missing, Viscera Cleanup could have been a really highly rated game for me. I ultimately give Viscera Cleanup Detail a 3.5 out of 5. Now, I know I've been complaining quite a bit, and maybe that's higher than I should give it, but it's also a bit lower than it could have been. You know, honestly, it's a really unique concept, and that's what keeps it at 3.5. I haven't seen a game like this before, I may never see a game like it again, and even if I do, this was the originator for me at least. But at the end of the day, the frustration with it really hurts the experience. And honestly, this is a game I wish I could love more, because it's so unique. That's really Viscera Cleanup Detail. Coming up next, well, I'll be honest, I don't know what's coming up next. I do want to review Just Cause 3, I don't know if I've played enough of it. I do have Danganronpa 2 on deck, so I haven't decided yet. One of those two games will be coming up, and then the other one will almost definitely be following it up. Until then though, I am King Link, and thank you very much for watching.